You're watching News 24 Live. Swiss rider Ariane Kleinhans and local boy James Reid are two mountain biking stars gracing our studio today to tell us a bit more about two major events on the mountain biking calendar this year, namely the Cape Epic and the Rio Olympics. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Ariane, we spoke last year after you won your fourth epic. Are you going to make it number 5 next month?
Well, I'm really working hard to do so. It's definitely the goal, but competition looks really, really strong this year, much stronger than last year. So it's going to be a very big challenge, and we're just going to try our best.
I remember we spoke about the ladies' race, there being quite a big gap between first and second. Looking at this year's competition, does it look like that gap is closing?
Last year it was just a lot of things happening basically in our favor. A lot of the teams kind of struggled with illnesses. So the gap was much bigger than it should have been, I would say. So this year there's a lot of ladies teams, very, very strong. And also what changes is the ruling. So we're not going to start with the men altogether. The ladies are going to have their own starting batch. So we actually see each other from the start. So that's going to change the whole dynamic of the race as well, and definitely brings the gaps closer together.
Okay, Ariane, I'm going to ask you a bit more about this year's race in a minute. James, I want to switch to you. You're going to be riding your first Cape Epic, but also juggling this multi-stage racing with your Olympic dream. I believe you're gunning for one of just 2 spots for the South African team later this year. How are you managing that?
At this stage, it's looking like we will have 2 slots, and the selection races are intermixed with preparation for the Cape Epic. So, you know, at Rio we race short course, 90 minutes lap racing, whereas at the Cape Epic it's 8 days of pretty much 5 hours a day of flat out. Well, not as flat out as a 90-minute event because of the nature of the intensity, but it's a difficult juggling act. I'm definitely a bit in the deep end at the Cape Epic. That multi-day kind of compounded fatigue is something new for me, but luckily I have a teammate in Ariane who can give me the advice and the necessary recovery techniques in between, for not only between stages but in the weeks and months afterwards, to prepare for the Olympics, which are in August, as opposed to the Epic, which is in March.
So what kind of advice have you received from Ariane and the likes?
Well, there's multiple different, I suppose, areas that you have to focus on, and one of them is nutrition, training, whether you're doing the right amount of quantity to match the demands of the event. I think, the demands of the 2 events are completely different, but at the same time, the spacing with 5 months in between the 2 really helps with switching from almost being a diesel engine to a bit more of a petrol engine later on in the year. So I'm hoping to use the Cape Epic as a bit of a building block for the Olympics, but at the same time you don't want to hit selection races tired with the compounded fatigue of the Cape Epic. So there's a lot of new concepts we're exploring in training, and experimenting with different things and different training techniques, and so far so good, but it remains to be seen.
Alright, you guys are teammates then, you both ride for Team Spur. What are the dynamics like in a mountain biking team? I mean, how big is the team, and like your sort of strategy sessions, and particularly if you're training for different types of events?
Well, we 2 riders, so James and I are the riders, and then we've got the management of Nick Lamond. He's basically dealing with the sponsors, and then we've got 2 staff, so a mechanic and a soigneur basically, and he's doing all the logistics. Making us just focus on the training and the racing. So, I mean, the dynamics or the atmosphere in the team is really good. We're very happy with everybody's super motivated. James and I do train separately. I mean, he would have to wait for me quite a lot if we train together. Obviously, there is sometimes a ride that we do together, or but most of our training is separate. But then the traveling to certain races is obviously together. We're going to go to Europe a bit later in the year, and obviously to the World Cup races we're going to have a bit of traveling together like last year as well. And that just makes it a bit more fun to have somebody going with you, and you got something nice to talk about and a bit of company, so that's always cool.